Edgy art is far from new. In fact, art that contains dark, disturbing, and provocative themes has been around for as long as art itself. Henry Fuseli's 1781 painting, The Nightmare, Edvard Munch's 1893 painting, The Scream, Odilon Radon's 1881 painting, Smiling Spider, or literally any fucking Iko Tatsushima painting ever. These topics go pretty far back, and so do those who've pushed against the very existence of these art pieces. I see it as being very similar to the video games cause violence argument. You might not see the correlation at first glance, so allow me to explain a bit. A lot of pushback against dark artwork is that somehow the very existence of this work can and will corrupt those who view it, that it will greatly influence them negatively, that it will cause them to do something bad. In very specific, rare circumstances, these things could influence people's behavior, but it will not be the sole factor to blame. In fact, I would say that it shouldn't hold blame at all in these very minuscule and hell, even debatable instances. Chances are that if someone is influenced by a piece of artwork, whether it be written, illustrated, audio, or film, there will be a large factor of mental illness. Someone who is of a healthy mind won't play Call of Duty and go shoot up a Walmart or something. There is something wrong to begin with, and if it wasn't going to be Call of Duty that pushes them over the edge, it would be something else. Anything, really. So, if video games don't cause violence, why would disturbing art? Look, I'm going to be solely touching on the topic of gore in this video. I'm not going to touch the topic of lolicon and shotacon with a 10-foot fucking pole, because frankly all signs are kind of crazy. A lot of people greatly misinterpret laws on both sides and make their arguments based on these misunderstandings, and their own senses of morality, whether it be pro or anti-lolicon shotacon. Onto the actual topic of the video. Now, if you've followed art commentary drama, chances are that the name Dolly Guts will give you PTSD-style flashbacks. Chances are that if you've been on DeviantArt, like, ever, you'll have seen their art a few times. A few years ago, many different allegations were leveled against them, a majority of which were found to be completely baseless. What I want to talk about, though, was the specific claim that was peddled that their art was bad because of the dark topics depicted. In their work, they often drew an artistic depiction of themselves, who had self-harm scars. In many pieces, they were bruised, bleeding, or crying. In stark work, mental health issues and abusive relationships being the main themes of these drawings. According to critics, they shouldn't be drawing this sort of content. This was the romanticization of abuse and self-harm, in their eyes. Basically, the claim was put forward that their art had pushed people to self-harm, and that if warnings and helplines are there before viewing their work, then it shouldn't exist. If this sounds stupid to you, that's because it is. Let's be frank about what this really is. It's entitlement. These people who put forward these arguments feel that because they personally do not like this sort of artwork, therefore others should not be allowed to create it. I've seen plenty of controversy as of late when it comes to gory art. Personally, I'm a big fan of a lot of different gore art subcategories. A lot of these will have overlapping themes and content, so keep that in mind. Now, let's go over a few. Guro and Ero-guro. First up, Guro and Ero-guro. Guro mainly depicts general gore and body horror, with intestines, rib cages, and internal organs being the main focus. While Guro does not strictly mean gore, it tends to be a large focus of it. Ero-guro is much like Guro, but with the additional themes of eroticism, sexual corruption, and degeneracy. Unsurprisingly, I'm not really going to be able to show you many examples of this specific genre of art due to the sexual content. Back in middle school, I was very active on DeviantArt. I've since started using that platform again. Keep my guts on there, please go check out my page, there's a one where the I would be. This was where I was first introduced to Guro as an art subgenre. This was unsurprising. I've always had an interest in creepypasta, and often these two things would cross over. Also, I saw a lot of Guro artwork in YouTube speed paints, like the original Bandicam, Nightcore in the background speed paints. I grew up on those. It's why I knew how to use Paint Tool Sci before ever touching the program. Now, the pushback against Guro and Ero-guro hasn't been too severe, at least from what I've seen. Sure, I've seen some controversy arise. A few months ago, while browsing TikTok, I saw a video from a furry artist, which was Guro-centric. there was like a lot of animosity in the comments for, well, animal cruelty. It was very stupid. Admittedly, I don't have the video since I saw it so long ago, so you'll have to trust me, I guess. At least that's if I do not manage to find it during the creation process of this video, and if I do, I'll show it, or whatever. Yami kawaii. Yami kawaii is a type of art that juxtaposes dark themes with cutesy ones. The name itself, yami kawaii, is derived from yume kawaii, which is an aesthetic that features bright pastel colors and fantasy-type themes. Unlike yume kawaii, the use of makeup is used to achieve a sickly, unwell look. There is often a lot of medical supplies present in the aesthetic, such as syringes and scalpels. Yume means dreamlike and kawaii means cute. Yami means dark, so the end result of the name is yami kawaii. Dark cute. Unlike the previous two, yami kawaii doesn't tend to be as grim and graphic, though it did inspire the creation of Menhera-chan. Now, Menhera-chan is a character whose adorable appearance is contrasted by the presence of self-harm, box cutters, and other tools used for self-harm. Menhera-chan became very popular as time progressed, resulting in her own manga series in 2014. Gorokawa. Gorokawa, also known as creepy cute or cute horror, is another aesthetic that contrasts cute with dark themes. Unlike yami kawaii, however, Gorokawa usually features more grotesque themes and less pastel colors. Eyeballs, bloodstains, and bloodied bats are common motifs of the style. A well-known character that falls within the Gorokawa aesthetic is Gloomy Bear, who is a pink but violent bear that likes to eat humans. You would be forgiven for mistaking him as a Sanrio character by his cutesy pink design and cartoony art style. The thing that would hint otherwise, though, is the permanent blood dripping from his mouth and claws. Funnily enough, in elementary school, a teacher gave me a little, Gloomy Bear toy. I don't have it anymore since it was 8 years ago, but I was super confused as to why my 4th grade teacher gave me that. It was adorable though. I kinda want a Gloomy Bear plushie now. Menhera-kei. By now the word Menhera will be familiar, and once again, Menhera-chan is relevant. Menhera-kei, meaning troublesome woman or attention whore, is another aesthetic, featuring pastel colors, cute clothes, medical supplies, like bandages and syringes, bondage gear, and blood spatter. If I were to talk about specific artists, though, I would bring up Yuko Tatsushima, whose work is widely recognized online from its ties to old creepypasta stories. Now, the quality of the scans of her paintings are less than stellar, so certain aspects of her work can be a little bit difficult to make out. There's plenty of gore with some themes of grief in her different paintings, though overall the meaning is very much up to interpretation. Miss Tatsushima's most well-known work, which is titled I Cannot Be a Bride Anymore, appears to tell a story of a wife-to-be experiencing some sort of rape/sexual assault. At first, I considered that perhaps it could be depicting the aftermath of a miscarriage, but according to JapanObjects.com, her works are meant to rebel against sexual crimes. Sex, gore, and what looks like self-harm is found in her work pretty frequently, and the results are really surreal, nonsensical, and haunting. Unfortunately, information about Miss Tatsushima is very sparse, so a lot of her artwork is up to interpretation, and there are a lot of rumors about her. I will not be addressing these as they have no actual backing behind them, so just take everything you hear about her and her life with a grain of salt. I could bring up Rei Lavita on Twitter, previously known as Roina Goth. Her work features cute, small anime-style girls, often with gore or some sort present. Girls crying and holding their torn-out teeth, a girl tearing the head off a teddy bear with unfocused eyes and a bloody nose. Maybe one that features a young woman with her eyes rolled back, an upside-down cross carved into her forehead and blood oozing from her nose and mouth. You could be hung up on the cute aspects of her work, the soft pinks, the blues and the purples, the frilly clothes, cute accessories, but there's strong contrast in these themes. Cute girls dressed in adorable clothing, wounded or crying. It's only a couple examples, but it's mainly what comes to my head when it comes to these specific genres of artwork that display disturbing content, usually involving gore or self-harm. Viscerally disturbing artwork is not new, and historically there have always been people who have opposed its creation, which I've already mentioned. Believing that it should not exist, that it is too obscene or will corrupt those who look at it. Obscene, disturbing art isn't for everyone, and you don't have to like it, but nobody should be allowed to dictate what other people create, as long as it's within the confines of the law. The argument that someone is romanticizing the topics they illustrate, whether that be abuse, self-harm, suicide, murder, etc., is entirely based off of the viewer's interpretation. You are interpreting the artwork as romantic, while someone else could see the opposite. You could look at an Ali Fell painting and just see a beautiful woman beating someone to death with a hammer, and you could interpret that as romanticizing murder. You could look at a picture of a pretty girl dressed up for prom with a bloody severed head in her lap and think that the creator is making light or even trying to sexualize violence. You are allowed to think this, because your interpretation isn't wrong. It's an interpretation, after all. At the same time, someone could see it as showing that death comes in many forms. It may not be the hideous hulking man that guts you, but your pretty blonde date. It could be interpreted as the corruption of youth, or maybe a story of revenge. This wouldn't be wrong either. Both of these ideas can exist at the same time, and both be correct to the viewer, and there isn't anything wrong with either. It becomes wrong when you start demanding the art be outlawed because of your opinion on it. What makes your feelings on that specific topic more important than the rest of the world? Why should we all fall to your feet and curate the internet for you to your interest and yours alone? Fun fact. You're not the main character of the fucking universe, and you're no more important than the rest of us. And the reality is that you seeing art that makes you uncomfortable isn't our problem. There are systems in place to make sure that if you don't want to see this work, you won't. Warnings, posts locked under not safe for work tags, there are so many ways you can avoid seeing these things that bother you. Instead of shitting yourselves when you do, take some fucking initiative and do something. You can't expect not to see something if you will not do the most basic work to protect yourself. Curate your own internet experience. And for God's sakes, stop telling artists they're bad people because they don't draw what you want.